The speech I'm analyzing is the Dananjaya Hettiarachchi speech. It's clearly a persuasive speech. He's talking about how people are broken down and beaten down at times in their lives, but in the end, it's only temporary, and they're built back up and brought back up into something unique and special in the end. He, throughout the speech, uses a nurturing and optimistic tone that creates a positive aura throughout the entire speech, which I really enjoyed. He uses repetition. There's a line that he says many times. It's, "I see something special. I just don't know what it is." I believe he used it 3 or 4 times, and it was in the beginning, middle, and end. It tied the speech together very well, and each line was very well placed. He uses unique voices for unique characters. When he says that repeated line, there, I believe, are 2 or 3 different characters that he uses different tones and personalities with that just makes the entire speech way more believable. And the last thing for delivery, his hands. There's one point where he's talking about the 3 tears that a mother cries. It's of joy, sorrow, and shame. When he's talking about tears of joy, he put his hand down to the left. Tears of sorrow, he put his hand down to the right. And tears of shame, he put his hand over his heart, which made him take responsibility for it and made the entire thing way more believable. For body language, he's a professional. He knew what he was doing. He had a strong posture the entire time. He showed command and great presence on the stage. He just did an absolutely wonderful job. Same thing with eye contact. He's a professional. He knew what he was doing. He made contact throughout every portion of the audience, and at one point he even individualized and focused on one single person in the audience, and he pointed, so it created a greater connection with the audience. For audience adaptation, his questions fit very well into the setting. He asked if people had a cool dad and a emotional mom. I mean, honestly, who doesn't? So it fits a stereotype, and it was very generalized, and so I'm guessing a good amount of people raised their hand for that question. He picked a relatable topic. Everybody's been broken down at some point in their lives, and in the end, they're built back up. They're at a national convention, so something's going very well in their lives. So it was a great topic that he picked. He adjusted to the occasion by adding comedy to connect with the audience. It made him stand out. People are sitting there listening to many speeches, and so I'm guessing that his comedy just put him over the top, and in the end, that's why he won. His rose metaphor was one of the best metaphors that I've seen used in a speech as well. He tore a rose apart at the beginning to symbolize the breaking down, and then picked a new one up out of the trash can at the end to symbolize the rebuilding of a person. And for a very professional setting, his comedy he used a lot, but he still maintained a professionalism that I thought was very impressive, and I believed it was very hard to do. For credibility, he connects with the audience. He says, "This flower is not much different from you and I," so he puts the audience in his shoes, which was a great technique to use and created a great connection. And he also makes himself vulnerable. There's a point where he's talking about when he was 17 and he went to jail and he flunked out of school. His mom was crying tears of shame. It just made the entire thing believable and made the audience sympathize for him. So that was very well placed as well. In conclusion, for public speaking in general, what I got out of the speech is comedy and humor is acceptable even in professional environments. Physical metaphors and vulnerability are great ways to connect with the audience. And repetition is a great way to tie an entire story together. The line that he repeated, he put at the beginning, middle, and end, and it was way more effective than any other line that he used throughout the speech. For me personally, in my speeches, I learned that a faster pace, I need to use faster hand movement. It made his entire speech way more synchronized, and it flowed very well. And lastly, I need to use comedy. At some point, it was very effective for his speech, so I feel like I want to try it, and that can create a great connection, especially with our young audience of a bunch of college students. So that's something that I'll try in some of my upcoming speeches.